In a quiet rural hamlet, Hiraku Makio, the pioneer and founder of the village, stirs from a slumber where he relived his previous life's battle with a devastating disease. As he awakens, he prepares to commence his routine responsibilities overseeing his agrarian settlement, which is inhabited by demi-human residents. In the past, the earth deity decided to grant Hiraku a new life, as a way of apologizing for the immense suffering he endured during his previous existence, marred by a particularly agonizing terminal illness. Hiraku, with his fondness for agricultural television programs he watched during his hospital stay, expressed his desire to be reborn as a farmer. In response, the deity endowed him with a robust, rejuvenated physique and the miraculous omnipotent farming tool, a mystical implement capable of conjuring any necessary tool, and tirelessly used for various tasks. Emerging in a remote woodland, far removed from the trappings of civilization, Hiraku carefully chooses a towering tree as the cornerstone of his new farm. With the aid of the tool, he deftly constructs a well, establishes a makeshift camp, and diligently excavates his inaugural field. Much to his astonishment, the tool's mere touch triggers the sprouting of crops, eliminating the need for traditional seed planting. After a few weeks of toiling, Hiraku comes to the aid of a pair of wolves he affectionately names Kiro and Yuki. On the very same night, they welcome 4 new additions to their family. Hiraku embraces these wolves, enlisting them as guardians to shield his farm from marauding monsters. Eventually, Hiraku reaps his inaugural harvest, marking the fruits of his labor. Meanwhile, in a distant locale, a young wanderer hears tales of the perilous Death Forest, teeming with menacing creatures, and resolves to embark on an investigative journey. It soon comes to the attention of the earth god that Hiraku was incorrectly reincarnated within the perilous forest of demise. Nevertheless, the deity opts to bide its time, waiting until a monster devours the new farmer, intending to intervene at that point to reincarnate him again. Meanwhile, Hiraku uncovers a remarkable ability, enabling him to mentally dictate the seeds sown by the omnipotent farming tool. With this newfound skill, he expands his cultivated land, anticipating the onset of winter. In preparation for the impending cold season, the wolves enlist the assistance of a benevolent colossal arachnid. In exchange for lodging in Hiraku's majestic tree, the spider, affectionately christened Zabuton, weaves warm attire to combat the chill. As the winter unfolds, Hiraku grapples with an overwhelming sense of solitude, particularly as the wolf pups reach maturity and find their companions, while even Zabuton reappears with a prodigious brood of 20 offspring. Upon the arrival of spring, Hiraku stumbles upon a feeble vampire child named Ru within the forest. After donating his own blood, she regains her adult proportions. Ru is astounded by Hiraku's novel crops, which are unique to this realm, and reveals her vocation as a medical researcher. She explains that she took refuge in the forest when antagonistic nobility sent a thief to pilfer her research. Developing a bond, Hiraku proposes that Ru lives with him. Ru agrees, and they decide to pledge themselves to a wedded union. In an effort to aid Ru's research, Hiraku introduces an herb garden to his cultivated expanse. An angel by the name of Tia appears in search of Ru, and is taken aback by the surprise of finding Ru now wed to Hiraku. Tia reveals that Ru has a price on her head due to her actions that led to the destruction of a town. However, Ru insists her actions were justifiable because she was imprisoned by a noble in that town. In a sudden turn of events, Ru invites Tia to live with them, and after experiencing their farming lifestyle, Tia adapts to it effortlessly. The wolves have a bunch more puppies, so Hiraku decides to expand the farm to provide them with more space. Some of Zabuton's offspring set off to find their own territories, while the rest choose to reside in Hiraku's fruit trees. In need of extra hands to help with the farm work, Tia brings 7 girls to the farm. They belong to a nearly extinct high elf clan in search of a permanent home to rebuild their population. Due to their extended lifespans, these elves possess a wide array of skills, including construction, blacksmithing, and baking. Hiraku becomes concerned that the demon lord, who controls the nearby forest, may accuse him of encroaching on their territory. However, Ru assures him that the demon lord won't be bothered by their presence. Consequently, Hiraku decides to enhance the waterways surrounding the farm for improved efficiency. Later, Zabuton manages to capture a queen bee monster and presents it to Hiraku. In response, Hiraku constructs a shelter for the queen bee to create a hive and produce honey. Working together, Hiraku, along with the elves, constructs a canal and a reservoir to ensure access to water for farming and fishing. With an abundance of water at their disposal, Hiraku decides to establish his very first rice field. When the harvest is ready, he uses it to make onigiri, a type of rice ball, along with some freshly caught fish. The group goes on to build a bathhouse, complete with a second reservoir, which they fill with slimes to purify the bathwater before returning it to the river. As 5 more elven girls arrive at the farm, Hiraku decides to construct additional houses to accommodate the growing population. The elves seem quite eager to start families, which leaves Hiraku worried, as he is the only man among an increasing number of women. Kiro the wolf expresses his gratitude to Hiraku for providing his family with a permanent home. He is convinced that Hiraku, who effortlessly thrives in the Death Forest and attracts numerous potential partners, must be more than just an ordinary human. Upon the urging of everyone else, Hiraku's dwelling is expanded, now boasting separate bedrooms for himself, Ru, and Tia. They also create a shared dining area for everyone to enjoy meals together. Hiraku cleverly chooses to disregard a hidden double bed behind a securely locked door. Hiraku's harvest includes an assortment of spices, enabling him to prepare savory curry with naan bread. Ru and Tia become fixated on crafting protective charms out of cilantro to deter the wolves, who still bear a grudge from their initial encounters with the pungent herb when they first arrived at the farm. With winter drawing near, the group starts amassing provisions, particularly firewood and preserved food. Hiraku worries about not contributing enough since he lacks the ability to use magic, but Lee reassures him that no one else has ever managed to survive and flourish in the Death Forest as he has. As winter sets in, the residents find themselves confined indoors, prompting Hiraku to introduce board games to pass the time. Ru and Tia engage in a friendly rivalry without risking any damage. To everyone's surprise, the wolves also partake in the games, with Kuro adeptly defeating Ru in chess and besting Hiraku in mahjong. Eventually, spring arrives, but before they can commence planting new crops, Zabuton sounds the alarm as a colossal wyvern approaches the farm. Hiraku's farming tool undergoes a spontaneous transformation, morphing into a magical spear. He uses this newly acquired weapon to defeat the wyvern. This legendary victory sends shockwaves through the ranks of the Demon Lord's generals, and Drime the Dragon King, all of whom are left pondering the identity of the enigmatic residents dwelling in the Death Forest. Hiraku decides to cultivate grapes to produce wine, and he endeavors to develop this new skill. The goddess of agriculture, who happens to be the Earth God's daughter, takes action to reprimand God for his actions. She discloses the true nature of the farming tool he provided to Hiraku. It's actually a replica of Grime the God's spear. Hiraku's survival is attributed to God coincidentally granting him an extraordinarily healthy body. Meanwhile, Zabuton and the wolves capture another vampire, who turns out to be Ru's sister, Flora. As another researcher, Flora becomes captivated by Hiraku's explanation of fermenting microorganisms used to create wine, miso, and tofu. She decides to relocate to the farm, bringing cows and 24 ogre maids with her. Feeling somewhat outnumbered, Tia extends an invitation to 3 more angels, along with a tribe of lizard men, who contribute chickens to the farm. Additionally, 30 more elves arrive, all with the intent of starting families, causing Hiraku to grow increasingly concerned about the lack of other men in the community. As the farm continues to expand to accommodate everyone, Hiraku rechristens it as the Great Tree Village. To commemorate this transformation, a festive gathering is organized, during which everyone unanimously bestows upon Hiraku the title of village mayor. One day the demon General Beazle meets with Hiraku, and Hiraku proposes a yearly tax to the Demon Lord, offering 10% of his harvest. Beazle agrees to this arrangement, but he confides to Generals Gratz and Randon that he only accepted 10% due to apprehensions about the formidable protectors of Hiraku's village. These defenders include Vampire Princess Ru, the Angel of Annihilation Tia, a united force of elves, angels, and lizardmen, a pack of inferno wolves, and a greater demon spider. Even Dragon King Drime pays a visit to the village. Recognizing his role as the village mayor, Hiraku acknowledges the importance of establishing diplomatic connections. As a first step, they construct an embassy to accommodate overnight guests. Hiraku also wisely educates the villagers on distinguishing between welcomed guests and unwelcome intruders. The next set of visitors hails from Howling Village, a group of beastmen who are miners and hunters. Their leader, Garth, enters into negotiations for a trade agreement. The terms involve exchanging food crops for silver, iron, and glass. In return for wine, Drime agrees to facilitate the transportation of goods between the Great Tree Village and Howling Village. In due course, 20 beastmen express their desire to relocate to the Great Tree Village. Surprisingly, they are all young women. Hiraku puts his foot down, insisting that the beastmen must send men to live in the village as well. However, the men they send turn out to be boys who are too young for marriage for at least a decade. While Sina and the other beastmen gradually adjust to life in the village, Hiraku remains concerned about his lack of magical abilities. However, he manages to vanquish a grappling bear and a bloody viper in a skirmish outside the village, which he later prepares for a communal feast. With assistance from Flora, Hiraku successfully concocts mayonnaise and miso, broadening the village's culinary offerings. Subsequently, a group of dwarves led by Donovan pays a visit to the village to trade for Hiraku's wine, and to obtain distillation technology, which enables the village to produce corn whiskey. In a surprising turn of events, the dwarves decide to settle in the village as well. Hiraku entertains hopes of potential marriages with the dwarves, but it becomes apparent that they are only attracted to women with beards. The situation takes an unexpected turn when 2 dragons appear. Hiraku is on the verge of confronting one of them, but Gucci, Drime's butler, intervenes to reveal their identities as Drime's daughter, Lastus Moon, and wife, Grafaloon. Grafaloon urges Lastus Moon to stay in the village as a diplomat, hoping to prevent Hiraku from becoming their adversary. Hiraku eventually entrusts Lastus Moon with the role of managing all diplomatic relations, a fact that Demon General Beazle discovers during a produce procurement mission. This discovery terrifies Beazle, who now realizes that Hiraku seemingly possesses command over dragons. In response, he sends his own daughter, Florum, to live in the village as a spy. Florum is initially nervous around Hiraku but is astonished to find out that the village's military strength is formidable enough to pose a threat to the demon army. She is further shocked to learn that their commander, Hiraku, is a remarkably strong human who came close to defeating Grafaloon. Despite her initial trepidation, Florum decides to extend her stay in the village beyond her original plans. Meanwhile in the village, a slime that consumed a whole barrel of precious wine is forgiven for its gluttonous act. As autumn sets in, Hiraku pines for seafood and, during a hot pot meal, Florum and Lasti arrange to trade for fish with a merchant named Michael. As part of the trade, Michael expresses his interest in becoming Hiraku's purveyor, responsible for managing all trade between Hiraku and the outside world. Hiraku senses that Michael is reliable, although some comical flashbacks reveal his initial fear. A new challenge presents itself as another dragon challenges Hiraku to a duel. After capturing her, Hiraku realizes she is Hakurin, Dryme's immature older sister. Dryme explains that Hakurin believed Lasti had married Hiraku, and, being single herself, she was jealous. Hiraku, unamused, compels Hakurin to make amends by repairing the damage she caused. Hakurin discovers her newfound interest in board games, leading to Hiraku reluctantly participating in a game of strip mahjong that culminates with the ladies seeing Hiraku lose and disrobe. Meanwhile, Beazle learns of Hakurin's presence in the village, which prompts his colleague General Randon to submit a resignation letter out of fear. Demon Lord Galgardo, on the other hand, is more concerned about his daughter Yuri's teenage rebellion. Hakurin initially attempts to move into the village as an idle resident, but after experiencing Hiraku's corrective measures, she eventually takes on the role of the village schoolteacher. In another turn of events, Hiraku discovers that some inferno puppies raided a dungeon inhabited by Lamia ladies. After apologizing to them, the Lamias start trading dungeon treasures in exchange for crops. Eventually, this trade develops into a delivery service for all the trading villages. Meanwhile, Yuri is convinced that Florum is being held against her will by Hiraku, leading her to plan an invasion of the Great Tree Village. Florum learns of Yuri's intentions, but Yuri has been misled by a trio of ambitious demon nobles known for their simplicity: Rosalind, Clacase, and Roju. To thwart Yuri's army without causing harm, Florum secretly orchestrates their defeat by the Lamia ladies. As a penalty for their actions, Florum relocates Yuri and the three misguided nobles to the village, where they are expected to atone for their misdeeds. Florum, however, conceals their attempted invasion from Hiraku, citing political considerations. Despite several escape attempts, Yuri and the trio find themselves repeatedly thwarted by the Inferno wolves and demon spiders. Eventually, they reluctantly assist Florum with the village's financial paperwork, becoming known as the Town Hall Trio. Upon learning the truth about the village, Yuri experiences regret over her almost invasion and returns home with a sense of fulfillment. The trio, now accustomed to village life, decide to stay, preferring it over the complicated politics of the demon court. Demon Lord Galgardo is perplexed by Yuri's sudden change in demeanor, and mistakenly believes she has found a boyfriend. 5 mountain elves, led by Ya, move into the village and utilize their fire magic skills to craft pottery goods. Florum intervenes to thwart a sly plot by the Town Hall trio to seduce Hiraku. During their explorations, the villagers discover a dungeon housing another bloody viper. The elves express their desire to hunt this creature for its meat, which they believe can increase their chances of pregnancy. As winter approaches, Rue falls ill and is confined to her bed. Due to her symptoms, Sina suspects that Rue might be pregnant with Hiraku's child. While Rue's pregnancy advances, Hiraku continues with his daily routine of managing the village, tending to farm tasks, checking in on everyone, ensuring the village's safety, and engaging in combat training. Out of the blue, a man appears, who is revealed to be vampire progenitor Vargreif, Rue and Flora's 4,000-year-old grandfather. Normally, vampires create offspring by transforming humans into vampires, so Rue's natural pregnancy is a rare occurrence. Upon seeing Hiraku's statue of the god who reincarnated him, Vargreif discloses that he had also encountered God once before being born as a vampire. Over the span of his eternal existence, he has opted to erase most of these memories every few centuries as a means to preserve his sanity. Hiraku crafts a replica of the statue for Vargreif, who secretly donates it to the temple of the god of creation. The temple priests are so captivated by this remarkably accurate likeness of God that they declare their protection over the Great Tree Village. To celebrate Rue's pregnancy, Vargreif gifts the village with an exquisite grand piano. However, the Town Hall trio feels too anxious to play it. Consequently, Hiraku buys a less expensive version for them to practice on first. He soon regrets this decision when their practices keep him from getting a good night's sleep. Ru's pregnancy continues, and as a show of support, the village collectively decides to abstain from alcohol until Ru is able to partake once more. During Ru's labor and delivery period, Hiraku is asked to stay away from the house, so he wanders around the farm. He anxiously awaits the arrival of their son, Alfred, who is born as a half-vampire. Hiraku is elated to become a parent for the first time. Recognizing the need for a more structured economic system in the village, Hiraku decides to introduce their own currency. He mints great tree coins and distributes 3 to each villager. However, there is some confusion about the precise value of a single coin. To commemorate Alfred's birth, the villagers host a grand feast, and the dwarves create a special wine for the occasion, which will be saved until Alfred is of drinking age. Diesel, after recognizing the strength of the Great Tree Village, decides to pursue an alliance rather than trying to conquer it. Meanwhile, Galgardo becomes upset, mistakenly believing that Beazle intends to arrange a political marriage between Yuri and Hiraku. Hiraku receives numerous requests from nearly 200 people wishing to move to the village to escape conflicts and persecution. In response, a decision is made to construct a second village nearby to accommodate all the newcomers, known as Great Tree Village 2. And this is all for this video. Make sure to subscribe if you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one.